Okay. All right. So when big pharma start to tweak these peptides and then sell them as pharmaceuticals, um, do you see that as a huge step forward to help the peptide industry, or do you see that as possibly squeeze out the more natural forms of peptides? Because I assume that the big pharma cannot patent completely natural molecules, correct?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, to get a drug to market right now, it takes over $2.3 billion. And that is a lot of money, and a lot of money that most people or most companies would not have. And so, unfortunately, a lot of what drugs are going to market are still controlled by the people that would have that financing. And that tends to be these large drug companies. And so, what we're starting to see, I think, is a pattern is that a lot of early drug work is done and then sold or licensed to these larger pharmaceutical companies. And so, generally, I think that that's a relatively good thing because they have the time and resources to bring something to market. But as I mentioned, there are quite a few exceptions where we know that the products are really great, but they tend to be not brought to market. Ipamorelin is a good example. Even early with Sermorelin, I think that's a good example as well. All these growth hormone secretagogues, which have really great clinical impact, but are never really brought to market. And so I think that there's some pros and cons of both, but I would say generally there's really no other way to bring them to wide use. And so I think you have to go through these pharmaceutical companies.
And it has to go a little bit of synthetic route, basically.
It's almost always synthetically produced, but it doesn't always have to be different from the product that we would endogenously produce in our body. But I would say that most of the time it is, just to make sure that, again, we're eliminating any of those concerns that typically happen with